the reason why John Mayer, there's an argument for him being the best guitar player of all time. When you have giant statements like that, like GOAT statements, like who's the best ever, who's the greatest of all time, you just have to define your criteria. So one thing you could argue with John Mayer being the best of all time is there are countless guitar players that can play better than he can when it comes to the just technical skill. Mm-hmm. But there's nobody on the planet who would play what he plays.
Right.
There are thousands and thousands of people who can play what he plays and better. Mm-hmm. But there's nobody that would play what he played if he didn't play it first.
Exactly.
When you think of all of his brilliant guitar intros, when you think of all of his solos and interludes, and then we're not even talking about lyrics. The dude's a lyrical savant.
Dude, I'm just now getting into his lyrics. I was so enthralled with his guitar playing for so long. I'm just now breaking down his lyrics.
Oh my gosh. Like Walt Grace, Submarine Ride.
Unbelievable.
We're going to read the lyrics real fast.
Yes.
Walt Grace. I remember my dad was actually the one. I love that the title is Walt Grace's Submarine Test, January 1967.
Dude.
That's the title of the song.
What an amazing title.
But my dad was actually the one who started listening to John Mayer and going, this guy, like, oh my gosh, these lyrics. I'm like, oh, like you. I was like, I just usually listen to the chords and the melody. Sure. But the lyrics, he's like, my dad was a songwriter professionally for a long time and has written beautiful songs. And so he's listening to the lyrics. And then I start listening to the lyrics. I'm like, oh my gosh. Walt Grace, desperately hating his whole place, dreamed to discover a new space and buried himself alive. Inside his basement, tongue on the side of his face mint, he's working away on displacement and what it would take to survive. Because when you're done with this world, this is the chorus, because when you're done with this world, you know the next is up to you. And his wife told his kids he was crazy, and his friends said he'd fail if he tried. But with a will to work hard and a library card, he took a homemade fan blade one-man submarine ride.
Wow.
Yikes. That morning, the sea was mad, and I mean it. Waves as big as he'd seen it. Deep in his dreams at home, from dry land, he rolled it over to wet sand, closed the hatch up with one hand, and pedaled off alone. And then the chorus, and then the last verse is, one evening, when weeks had passed since his leaving, the call she planned on receiving finally made it home. She accepted the news she'd never expected. The operator connected a call from Tokyo.
Bro.
Let's go.
That is unbelievable.
That is so the every man's story, dream, I can do something and no one thinks you can and you think you're crazy. And it's like, guess what, mother trucker? Operator's calling you from Tokyo because that's where I am because I did it. And you said I could not be crazy and I did it.
So here I am.
And it's also cool because he said what he delivered the message.
Yeah.
But he didn't say, and then he made it. You know what I mean? He's just and then one day, wife picked up the phone and that's beautiful too. The wife picked up the phone and accepted the news she never expected. So it's she accepted the call because that's what you have to do when an operator talks to you. You have, okay, I accept this call. Yeah. But she was also accepting the message she never expected that she'd get a call in the first place.
There's so many. I love at his basement, tongue on the side of his face meant. Dude, he's spitting bars.
I know. I love John Mayer, and I love that song.
Dude,
and we could do the whole podcast on John Mayer because...
We could.
Actually, let's talk about this.
I'm in.
Room for Squares. Awesome.
Yep. Great.
Continuum. Everyone's mind is blown apart.
Yep.
We've fallen in love. We're all in. We've got enough content and material to understand who he is, and we have enough to be obsessed, and we are obsessed. He's done it. He's gotten the pop people. He's gotten the musicians. He did it. We're Obsessed.
Yep.
Then the next album he comes out with is Born and Raised. Is that right?
Battle Studies.
Battle Studies. And then after that, it's just the same kind of feel. And then, was it Born and Raised then?
Yep.
Born and Raised comes out. I hated it.
Crickets.
Everyone
Took me a
trashed
second.
it. Everyone trashed it because it was completely different, because it wasn't
Yeah.
what we expected. And this will preach. But when you have preconceived notions about something, often we can miss the beauty of it just because it's not what we expected and what we wanted it to be. What was your feelings when that song came out, or when that album came out?
So I remember going to Walmart and buying that on CD the midnight it was released.
Whew.
And I was like literally that excited and got it. And I was like, this album cover is nuts. Like I was freaking out. I thought it was beautiful. I'm like, this is going to change my mind, or like blow my mind, not change my mind. And put it in the CD player. And I'm just kind of vibing. And I'm like, all right, Johnny. Woo, Johnny. And then second song, I'm like, all right, Johnny boy. All right, because I'm wanting Continuum Part 2. In
Right,
my mind,
everyone is.
in my mind, that's what I wanted.
Yeah.
And I listened to the whole thing all the way through, and it's just kind of like, yeah, all right. And I didn't want to say I didn't like it just because it was him. Because everything he does to me is gold.
Right. He's a god, like to us. Like he's a deity of music.
Yeah, just like, and so, and at that time, I hadn't really found my love for like country records or I'm not even calling it a country record, but you know what I mean, folk records.
Yeah.
I hadn't found my love for that yet. I was still like pop charts, Continuum is up there, like
Yeah.
bumping. So I was like, this is a throwaway. This is a throwaway record. He'll go back. And then we're fast forwarding now. Now it's like one of my favorite records.
That's right. Like
Ever.
we get it, and I'm like, oh, this isn't anything I wanted. Everyone trashed it. Critics trashed it. We
Oh, yeah.
didn't, because again, like you said, all we wanted was Continuum Part 2.
Mm-hmm.
But John had something else in him, and I was like, I'm not feeling it. I got something else inside of me, and it's going to come out. So then when it came out, I wonder if he knew. I think he had to have known how it was going to go. Maybe not. I wonder if he knew, like, when the release, if he's like, whew, as soon as people hear this, they're going to be pissed. Like,
Yeah.
this is not what people want. I guarantee he had a fight with, I don't know this, but I bet he had a fight with the record label. I bet the label was like, what is this? What are you doing?
Yeah.
But at that point, he had enough notoriety where he can kind of just decide what was going to come out. And the record label didn't have as much power.
Man.
But like
but
you said,
they had the
2 years later, 3 years later for me, I go back and listen to it. And all of a sudden, I'm listening to The Age of Worry. I listened to The Age of Worry like a couple days ago. Oh my gosh, the lyrics in that and how relevant that is right now. Speak for Me.
yeah.
Something Like Olivia.
Dude.
Walt Grace's Submarine Test, January
Yes.
1967. Like,
I mean, the opening track, I think, is Queen of California, and just has that vibe. And I didn't appreciate it the first
I
time.
didn't either. And now it's like, oh, that's when I'm like, oh, he deserves he deserves to
late.
be in my opinion, it's hard because he's still alive. A lot of times we can't have this discussion until like their prime is way done and we've had a lot of time away from them. But in my opinion, that's why he deserves to be in the discussion as one of the greatest of all time.
Yeah.
Because
go ahead. Sorry.
no, because he made something that was 3 years later people would get. And then now that we get it, it's one of our favorite albums. You and I, we've talked about this. Like, it's one of our favorites.
Yeah.
And because he was able to do that, like, he was right. We were wrong. And we discovered that later. And that it was
Yeah.
brilliant. What were you going to say?
Dude, my to your point about, you know, I know that he's still alive, and I know that we definitely feel the same way about this. I am so, and I do the same thing. But I think we're just so over the you gotta wait till someone's dead
Yeah.
to not to peg them the greatest.
Yeah.
Because
Very good point.
those people, I mean, someone has to be.